This goes back to the 19th century, the idea that machines are going to do the work, so human beings are going to be unemployed. Everyone who works with computers knows that they come with problems and opportunities that require a lot of work. The machines make it possible to do new work that was unthought of. What about the work I'm doing right now? So it's not true that there's a certain amount of work to be done. And once that's done, what else are you going to do? You're going to do a lot. There's going to be better work. It's not the same work. It's better, more interesting, more mind-challenging work. As long as people can think of a new idea, they need means to implement it. And the machinery just moves matter around.
I don't think the culture is ready for that. So here's what's going to happen now. Soon, the government is going to decide that they need to cut expenses. Where are they going to tax expenses from? One area is the expenses of the state. So this could also involve things like the NHS, things like the welfare state, and the culture that the conservatives have created is completely a no-go zone in terms of cutting welfare states. So when they will have to make some cuts in the expenses of the state, the society will be up in arms because the ideological ground is not fertile for that.
Emotions are not in our direct volitional control. Emotions are automatized values. They are our evaluations built in at some point to our subconscious. Now that can happen over time, that can happen early in our childhood, but they are automatic. They're not chosen. Our feelings are our feelings, and as such, they cannot be morally evaluated like our thoughts and our actions can be. Whether we think is a moral question. What we do is a moral question. Now, what we feel is simply outside of our control. They're your feelings. So it's not like they impose some moral obligation on anyone else in the universe, but on the other hand, they're your feelings and they are not subject to moral evaluation.
Yeah, it seems like everybody points to the problems around us and says this is the consequence of individualism. Like the conservatives, they look at these strung out drug addicts in the street, and they look at the reckless youth that are demanding their pronouns be respected at gunpoint. That's individualism unhinged. And I guess what's the flip side of that? The leftists say like, oh look, capitalism that's individualism. Like what they perceive, like I guess they would say like fascism. The state and corporations working in cahoots. That's capitalism, which is individuals being unhinged and no regulation, stuff like that. In various ways, people point at what they don't like in society and they say this is individualism left unhinged. But that's not what we mean by individualism. We're Enlightenment individualists. We believe there is objectivity. There is an objective way to reason and an objective ethics. And we want a government that protects the right of the individual.
Is homosexuality immoral? And Leonard Peikoff starts off by saying, well, let me say in advance that philosophy has no view in regard to specific kinds of sex. A scientific study of sex, of different kinds of sex, and of the motivation and results would be required. There's nothing in philosophy that will tell you about this question. As I mentioned in OPAR, I once asked Ayn Rand, well, what does philosophy have to say about sex? And she said, it says that sex is good.